Today we have a throwback testimony with Adrian Ibarra. You're having coffee with Conrad.
Conrad rocks!
Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Conrad. This is Conrad from ConradRocks.net. Today we have a throwback testimony with Adrian Ibarra. As soon as I saw Adrian, you know how the Lord lights up people? I had this desire to get his testimony. I knew this man had a story. And believe me, there was a lot of warfare to get it. He finally came over to the house one day, and I said, "Look, dude, I got to get your testimony." So he comes over, and I wasn't really set up. I just pressed record on the phone. And Adrian, I got this way before Jesus Jam Texas happened. But when I look back, I can see that this was part of the whole thing. You know, because he gave his testimony at Jesus Jam Texas Memorial Day 2014. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is going to be long. It's really long, and there's many stories involved, and I'm very grateful for Adrian to share brutally honest about a lot of the stuff that he did and how God has changed him. He's got some amazing stories in here. Anyway, without further ado, here's this amazing testimony with Adrian Ibarra.
We are having coffee with Conrad. ConradRocks.net. Jesus
I wanted to invite Adrian over. He's over to give his testimony. You have this huge testimony. Ever since I asked you, like I said, people have died. It's been a heart attack. I'm not giving power to the devil, but it's like he's really trying to stop something you've got going. So what happened? What were you? How was your conversion, and what are you doing now?
Okay, my name is Adrian Ibarra, and I've only been a Christian since 2009. This is my Bible. I brought it from, I was locked up in West Texas, and that's where I was saved and baptized. I was baptized in a horse trough in prison. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, cool. And it was a cold day that day, and there was like 30 people that signed up to do it, and it was a voluntary thing. Who wants to go to church? And out of a 60-man tank, you maybe get 10 people that want to go. And it's real corrupt in there. A lot of gambling and a lot of just the world in there. It's real bad. Everything that they cleaned off the streets, they put it in one room. You know what I mean? So all that's in one room. Yeah. So anyways, church is a beautiful thing. You go, I believe that, like the Bible tells me, man, that, Jesus ain't going to go somewhere where people are already healed and people don't have problems, you know what I mean, or something like that. Right. He's going to go where they need doctrine, where people are sick that need to be healed and touched and need to be talked to. So I believe that when I was called in my heart to go to church that day, I went, and I heard the word, and it was the first time that I had actually, really, really, truly, with my whole heart, heard it. You know what I mean? Because right. I had been involved since I was a little kid. I had been just rebelling because right. I was 11 years old when my parents were divorced. Just one day, just like right here in Lancaster, Texas, I was born here. My mom says, "Hey, pack up your stuff. We're leaving. We're moving." Where? Right. To California. What's California? Where's that? And so there we go. We get in the car. We're driving. I remember eating Whataburger, falling asleep. Next thing you know, I wake up in the morning, like real early in the morning, and all I see is desert, a desert environment, and I'm like, never seen it before. And we get to California, and a couple of days later, she enrolls me in school. So I get into school and I have, I got a Texas accent. I'm talking different from other people, you know what I mean? And they're just like, I'm just a sore thumb, you know what I mean? I mean, they can't really picture, or, they're just like, who is this guy? Why is he here? And, so I got picked on. I got, all these things, but what it was I needed to belong somewhere, and I was looking for something to belong to. Well, I ended up getting involved in gangs, and that led to drugs, and later on in life, I eventually held on to those things, as I was growing up, and not till I got to like maybe the end of my teenage years is when I really started getting into it really good, and actually just right up the street from here. I don't know what the street is. Ridge, right up the street. Cousin of mine lives there, still lives there today. I didn't have no place to go. My mom still lived in El Paso at the time, and my dad lived here. But I was real spoiled, you see. So I could do, if I didn't want to come home, it was cool. If I didn't want to go to school, it was cool. Wow. You know what I mean? So I had a lot of freedom in my life. So if I wanted something, I got it. I had a lot of vehicles, and it was only because my dad didn't have me as a young child, so he thought he was obligated to buy me and give me whatever he needed because I wasn't around when I was young, So, but I don't blame either parent. They did their best, and they made me, understand a lot of things now, But anyways, I went through a lot of trouble. I ended up meeting a girl, and I moved to Lomita with her, and we have 3 children together with her, and that's really where I really got into where darkness really came,
Right.
And that's where I really believe that, where I really started getting all twisted up in Lomita. Well, what had happened was her grandmother, she was what they call a curandera, which is a healer, what they would call a healer, And at the time, see, it was so corrupt that they used, statues and stuff, and they believed, they made it look like it was good stuff, like it was God's doing, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that God was using her to heal people. So people were coming to her instead of going straight forward to him, like I know today to go straight to him. Right. They were going to her and offering her money. She would say, I don't charge no money. She was kind of like a counselor or something. Like people would really come. I mean, like on a Tuesday, she would have this whole block of cars waiting to see her. And
is it a church or something?
No, it was just her house, but she had like a room probably about as big as these 2 rooms, and then she had, lawn chairs, them plastic white ones, stacked up like a church. And over on this side, she had, the saint that she was supposedly praying to, you know what I mean, and other saints. And that's what
she was like Catholic?
No, it wasn't Catholic really? Because she didn't even go to Catholic church.
What would you call it? You don't know?
I really don't know, Okay. But they believed in it, you know what I mean? Right. And still to this day they believe in it. It's called Santo Niño Atoche is the name of the saint. I don't know what that means in English, but that's what they called it. And it was he's a little boy, this saint. And well, they believe in it and they prayed to it and all this stuff. And anyway, so I'm with this girl, and then we had our first son, and we'd been with each other for maybe 3 years already. And eventually, there's not a whole lot of work in Lomita just like there is here. Imagine, I don't know if you've been to Lomita before, but it's a small town. I mean, one gas station, one restaurant. So all there is a rock quarry that, hopefully somebody quits or gets hurt so that you can get a job. That's the type of place it is, Yeah. So anyways, I get in there and I started to realize, hey, I got connections, and I started coming back up with my old ways that, I could just go to Austin or Dallas, and I got cousins here and there, where I could, they could hook me up, and I could, start making a living off of just selling to these people in this small community. Yeah. So I started selling weed. It started off with weed, just here and there around, and then it turned into, more quantities. And then it turned out that, at the same time, I'm corrupting my my wife at the time, my girlfriend, and she, I'm teaching her how to weigh and how to do all this and that, and just it was everything that I knew I was teaching her, and at the same time she was trying to convince me that we could go to this saint and it would help us. It would keep the laws, the law enforcement. It would protect us from that, know. So that's what we started doing. You know what I mean? And it was, in my mind, it was working. You know. So we left it at that, and we started getting into heavier drugs. We started selling cocaine, and we were being paranoid, and we had too much on our hands, and people were getting out of control. And then speed and methamphetamine started getting mixed up in it, and that's when it really started to downfall. Because I was smoking weed, and at the time while I was selling and all that, I was smoking weed and stuff, and drinking, and it wasn't really affecting me too bad, that I knew of. And then the cocaine came around, and I really didn't like it too much, but a lot of people did, and it was my source of income, so I was not really using too much. But when the meth came, I started to use a lot, and it wasn't but a little bit that would keep me going. And it seemed like I was getting deeper and deeper, and she was getting deeper and deeper. I started getting in trouble, disputes, people that owed me money. I mean, there was times when I'd come and I'd kick your door down if you owed me money and take anything you had that was value to me that I could get my money's worth for what you owed me. I would take it, and I didn't care if you had kids or whoever was in the room. That was the type of heart I had. I would come into your house regardless of who you had there. So it was just getting really bad, and
did you know you were going tumbling down that hole? Or?
I didn't know. I was blinded. I mean, we were having, like I said, I had my first son, Giovanni. After we had him, a year later, we had my daughter, Xiomara, and then a year after that, we had Anissa. And we were just having kids. Finally, she got her tubes tied, and she told me one day, she goes, well, now I'm going to get my tubes tied, and now I can party. And I was like, what? Talking about party? We party every day. What do you mean you're going to party? And that really messed me up in my head, because at the time, being all out there on drugs, being awake for several days at a time, you start to develop, like, you can hear stuff, like, you know what I mean? You start to hear things. The devil provides, stuff for you. At one time, she was gone for a couple days, and supposedly she was at her cousin's, and I went to her cousin's house, and in my head, I heard my girlfriend having an orgasm behind the door. I could hear it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And I busted that door down, because to me, that was an everyday thing. It wasn't nothing for me to come and do that to anybody's house, And in Lomita, the law, it would take them 20, 30 minutes to come. You know what I mean? So it wasn't really it wasn't like I got to do this and hurry up and get out of here because the law's coming. Yeah. I could go in there and take my time, and I might get in trouble, but at least if I go to jail, at least I got what I came for,
Yeah.
And so anyways, a lot of things like that happened.
But you did that didn't happen, or? You said
no, it didn't happen.
It wasn't. The devil plays tricks on your mind.
He was, in other words, he was kind of like making it seem that way, so that it would piss me off. You know what I mean? So I went up in there and was at rage. And really it wasn't nothing like that. She was there, and she had been gone for a couple of days, and like I said, she was on drugs too. We were both on drugs. And how come you're not at home with the kids? Mm-hmm. And and the same questions I should have asked myself. How come I ain't at home with the kids?
Right.
And so anyways, a lot of things like that went down several times. And after all the getting into it with people, I developed assaults. I developed breaking and entering, trespassing, tickets that I wasn't going to pay for, So now I got warrants, and if a cop sees me, I'm going to jail, because I got a warrant. So, if I'm going to go to jail, I might as well go to jail for something that I'm going to go to jail for, Okay. So I would, so my district, what I call like like if I was to go to Austin or Cedar Park and meet somebody and pick something up, if I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to pick up a good amount, because you know what? If I get pulled over, I'm going to jail regardless.
Right.
You know, it might be that I'm getting picked up for a warrant and I'll just go to jail and come out the next day. You know, there was times when I would go to jail maybe once a month,
right.
maybe every 3 months I would go. You know what I mean? But it wasn't like a long term. It was a real short term, you know, and until it started I started getting into it with her, having family violence with her, and family violence with her uncle or whoever tried to stop me, you know, and it just was so much stuff, you know. I mean, we started moving a lot of weight, and stuff started getting ugly, until, like I said, her grandmother was doing the healing thing.
It's her grandmother.
It's her grandmother.
Okay.
Yeah, her grandmother was doing.
Did people live with that lady, or I mean?
We lived with her.
Well, okay. She was wasn't she pretty popular? I mean, I think I've heard about her before.
Her real name is Nicolasa Henry.
Right.
Was her real name. She died just last year. Yeah, I went and paid my respects to her and her family, you know,
right.
Because regardless of what she did, you know, I mean, I lived with the lady for like 10 years. I was involved in that darkness and believed that her saints were helping me, because never did I catch a drug charge, or never did I catch any, and I always had it. I always had it in my house, you know, and I started to wonder, you know, like, wow, you know, this lady really...
Was she kind of like brainwashing people? I mean, like, what kind... Did she have control over people? Or?
Well, not really. Not really. Like, let's say you were a human trafficker, like a coyote, like someone that's crossing people from Mexico.
Yeah.
Right? And you do that for a living, and you have an 18-wheeler, or however you do it, you know, but you do it. Let's say that you're doing it. Well, let's say you want protection from the border or whatever, from the Border Patrol. Mm-hmm. So you come to her, and she does, I don't know what she would do, but she would give you maybe a rag or tell you to do something, or, you know, bring pictures of your family, and then you would go do it, and it would happen. You would cross over, and you would make money. And then you got another, you know, you're going to do it again in 6 months. So you come back and you tell her, I'm going to do it again in 6 months. Okay. Well, since you made profit off of that, you're going to give her like $4,000, you know? Yeah. You're going to offer her money out of your heart, you know?
Right.
And you're going to believe that she's helping you. And you're going to continue to do it and continue to do it. And that's what I was doing, is we were making lots of money. You know, and at the same time using. So every time we got money, we were just putting it back into her, you know, and plus all the money she was making off these other people, you know, and a lot of people in the town, they knew about it because she's been doing that for years, you know, and it wasn't only because I showed up. It was she had been doing it before I was even, you know, born, you know. Wow. So anyways, the way I see it now is I believe that God was seeing this, you know what I mean? And I believe that he put his wrath on us, you know, that day. Well, not that day, but that period of time, my house caught fire.
Okay,
you know?
So your house caught fire when?
During that period of time, while we were selling and doing this and that, and me going back and forth in and out of jail, the house caught fire. At that point in time, like, let's say, this is kind of how the house was. It was a long hallway here, and that was my room there, and that's where I kept the dope and the guns and everything I had in that room. And this was like the living room, and there was a hallway, and then there was like a lobby. So if you come to buy drugs, you're not just going to come in my house and get what you need and leave. No, you're going to come and wait for at least an hour, because my mind's telling me that there's laws watching everywhere, and you know, my mind's just so paranoid that my house is not gonna be a stop and go. You're gonna come and bring a can of corn or something. You're gonna leave. Yeah. You're gonna be some kind of disguise. You ain't gonna just come over here empty-handed and leave empty-handed. You know.
Right.
So, anyways, my there was just so much going on. Traffic coming in and out of this door buying dope, and people coming to see this lady for whatever, you know what I mean? And cars. I mean, at least 20 cars on a Monday. You know what I mean? On a Monday, coming to see her. You know what I mean? And lights on all night and up for 2-3 days at a time. I mean, it was getting really pathetic. It was getting really crazy. And there was times when, I mean, I wouldn't sleep, but my kids would be asleep in the room, and my wife would be over here, you know, making baggies or doing whatever. Because when you do drugs like that, your mind starts to hallucinate. So you want to turn off all it, just as quiet as it is in here, with the lights off, and you're just tripping on the windows and lights, and you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I was doing, sitting up against the doorknob, you know, just listening.
Yeah.
Waiting, hearing.
That doesn't sound much fun.
No, it's not.
Why
And
do
living
people do
that way for a long time, you know.
Let's see if we're still recording. I think we are. Yeah, we are.
So like I said, all these things, you know, my wife, my ex, we were never married, so I call her my girlfriend, you know. But anyways, she was bisexual, and there was times when, you know, that some of her friends wanted to come over and party, and we would have a big party, you know what I mean? Just me and a bunch of women, you know what I mean? And young women. It wasn't, you know what I mean? I'm 33 years old. She was 3 years younger than me. So all of her high school friends and all that, all the people that she knew, I was pretty much providing for, right. You know. So like I said, I was doing a little bit of damage there in that town, right. You know, and not a whole lot. I mean, I wasn't like Scarface or nothing, but hey, if you needed a sack, I got it, you know, right. Something like that. So like I said, my house caught fire.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
God waking you up or something?
I believe it was. It could have been. Okay. You know, nobody was hurt. Her grandmother always locks her door and takes her hearing aid out. And that weekend she wasn't there. But my children, they slept away, you know, on the other side of that. It was a 6-bedroom house, and then that chapel way on the other side. It started just a one little kitchen in one room when her grandfather built it and added on and added on and added on, because he raised all of her uncles and her mom. See? And we moved into that house with the grandmother, you know. So anyways, ended up being, the kids were way over there. And like I said, I would pay people to babysit. Like, they would make good money. And we weren't even going nowhere. I just wanted someone to go and be over there with my kids, you know what I mean? While I was in here doing my thing, you know. And, you know, even if it was like a nanny. Kind of like if we went somewhere, if we went to Fort Worth or we went to, you know, San Antonio or somewhere, they went with us. Yeah. The kids and everybody, they went with us, and everybody had a good time, you know. But I mean, it was just nothing right coming out of all that. Nothing was good. When I would go collect money,
how did you come out of it? I mean, how did that happen? Your conversion?
Well, that's where my house burned down.
Right.
Okay. Fire department was right down the street. I mean, they just didn't get there fast enough, you know what I mean? And when they did get there, the whole house burned. You know what I mean? The whole thing. So we were left at nothing. And the Red Cross was willing to donate $500, which is awesome. But the stage that I was in, I wasn't grateful for it at all, you know what I mean? And so we moved into her mom's trailer, which is on the same property, but across the kind of, you know, on the other side of the land, on the other side of the property. We moved into her mom's trailer, and it wasn't a great trailer. I mean, there was holes on the flooring, and, you know, it needed a lot. But we moved in there because it wasn't that bad. So we moved our 3 kids in there, and it was me and her, and we continued to sell dope because they said that the CPS had got involved, kind of. You know, being involved with the laws and family disturbance and all this stuff that I had got into, and she started to get into. CPS was starting to look at it, you know what I mean? Right. Or had been looking at it, but they finally came around one day. One day they came, and I said, "Well, I'm going to jail. I got a warrant." And the cops just pulled up. So I was ready to surrender. Okay, I'm ready to go. Here I go. And I told her, hey, do you know where the money's at? Come pick me up in the morning. And that's what it was. Well, I get in the car and turn around and see another car pull up. And then I look over toward the steps where she was at, and she was being handcuffed too. So now we're both going to jail, and her grandma's too old to take care of the kids, and her aunt that was there had already dealt with CPS before in another relationship, so she couldn't get our kids. And my mother-in-law that could have got them was out of town, so they went with CPS. So there we go with that. We went to jail. We got out a couple days later trying to get to our kids. So our kids ended up being, my mother-in-law came and got them, and she was with them. And we weren't allowed to go get the kids. We could go see them, but we weren't allowed to get them and take them nowhere. Well, we went and got them, and we left. We left, and we planned on leaving to Mexico. We were going to leave, right. And we had a little bit of money stacked up, you know what I mean, and enough that we thought would get us by, and what do you know, the car broke down, so we went and got another vehicle. And we knew that this vehicle wasn't going to take us nowhere, so we went to the Bend, to Colorado State Park, and we were there for like almost 3 or 4 days until we ran out of, supplies and stuff, and then we came back into town. When we came back into town, CPS pulled up on us. And they took the kids, and I had to hand them over, So that's why I have my daughter's names on my arms, because that's the last place I had them. And so we end up, we're down in the slump, you know what I mean? And what I don't understand till I look at this day is, if you've ever been to Lomita, there's like 10 churches. There's a lot of churches, and how come nobody never came? I mean, had I been a Christian then, and maybe if somebody would have came and started trying to talk to me about something, I might have shut them down right off the back. But if they would have kept trying, I might have opened my eyes, you know what I mean? I don't know. But anyways, that's why I strongly believe now that we should go out there, you know what I mean? Because there's people out there that need it. There's people out there that need to hear the good news. There's people out there struggling and that are still hooked on drugs and that are going through things, So anyways, after the kids left, we were just down in a slump, and they were telling us we were going to have to go to rehab. I went to rehab, and I got out, and the kid thing, trying to get the kids back was a matter of us staying sober. See, now after so many years of doing it, now we're full-blown addicted to it. Right. So we're not only fighting that struggle, we're not right in the head. And I went to rehab, and while I was there, she never contacted me. She never wrote me a letter. I tried to call her, nothing. So I'm not able to really concentrate on my recovery because I'm worried about her. What's she doing? Who's she with? What is she doing with my truck? How's this thing working out? And just the things of an addiction is just selfishness. Just thinking about myself. I ain't thinking about how am I going to get my kids back? Because at the time my aunt had them, and another one of my aunts, they were kind of both doing it, and they had them here in La Paz. So they pretty much had my kids, and then my mom, she lives in Arizona, so she came down and got the kids and took them to Arizona. Had the court and everything, did the court thing while I was locked up, while I was in rehab, and went to Arizona. So I got out of rehab, and I still had to go to court, and I was sober and clean. So I ended up getting a hold of her and went back over there with her and ended up getting dirty before I went to go see my kids. And I went to see my kids, and I was with my mom, and my mom, she's going to let me come in the house and be there with my kids, and I was there. And so I called my ex, and she was like, well, where you at? I said, well, I'm here with the kids, She's like, well, I want to come down there. I have the money to come down there. I said, well, come over here. So and meanwhile, my mom's on the other line, the house phone. And my mom's hearing all this, and my mom comes out of the room, and she's like, you know what? Get out of my house. Get out of my house. I don't want you here with the kids. I don't want her here with the kids. It was just a big thing, and I never had no kind of dispute with my mom, And at the same time, being in love with this girl, and protecting her because my mom was saying bad things about her. You know what I mean? So I was protecting her. You know what I mean? So right then and there, I got on the airplane and came home because I wasn't even supposed to be left the state because I was still going to court. You know what I mean? Wow. So it was just bad, you know. And so I came home and I went to court and they found me. I had smoked some weed. And I was found dirty, what they call dirty on my drug test. So I lost all my rights that day when I went to court. I lost all my rights and everything to my children, and my mom gave them up too. You know, she says you're not going to deal with them. I'm not going to deal with them, and she gave them to the state. Wow. So you know, and it took me a long time to forgive my mom for that. You know, and knowing that you know, she has the money and she has, you know, the stuff to take care of them, you know, but she wasn't going to deal with them, and it really hurt me, man.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
You know, but so with all that, I continued my binge for drugs. I started getting heavy, deeper, and started messing. I wasn't with her anymore. I was on my own now. Because a lot of people said, you know, it was always her. She was always bringing you down and, you know, stuff like that. And I always believed that. But I know deep inside my heart, I said, man, I've been in trouble without her. I'm the one, I think, that brought the trouble to her, you know. So anyways, I was here in Lampasas, and I started doing the same thing here in town. And what I did learn one thing from the rehab was I started to learn a little bit about a higher power and all this and that, going to NA and all this and that with that building. At the same time, I was traded that addiction for meth for alcohol. And now I wasn't doing drugs as bad. You know what I mean? I wasn't selling them. I wasn't doing anything. I had a job. Now I was drinking. And I was drinking every day, daily. You know, those 24 ounces, I was drinking maybe 6-7 of them a day. Wow. You know, at night after work. And partying and just going full blown party animal. You know what I mean? And that started to lead me into, you know, getting into other assaults with people. Somebody told me something, it's on, you know. If I was at a bar or somebody was trying to tell me that I was, you know, hey, you drank a little too much, it's time for you to go home. I'm not ready to go home. The cops would come, you know. And until one night, you know, like I said, I was going in and out of jail, and it was starting to turn into a longer, you know, I would go to jail for like a month, you know, and then get out. And then go again for another month and get out. Well, while I was there, they called for church, and I would go. So I would hear a little bit of the word. You know, they would have people come and do like jail ministries and stuff, and I would hear, and it was good, man. And I was loving it, and I was like, wow, you know, I'm going to go next week. You come back? Yes, sir, we're going to come back. There was a guy from CHOP over in Cove. Mm-hmm. They came out there, and it was, I don't remember his name, but he was really good.
Prayer right there?
Yeah, on the hill?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really good, you know, and I liked what he had to say. And we started talking, and he was a prisoner too, matter of fact. And, you know, God, you know, Jesus changes, he changed, you know what I mean? And so I started to look at that, you know, and I'd get out, and right there where the Bible was when I left, that's where it stayed. I'd get back out, and I would continue to do my worldly things again. And I would get locked up again, and sure enough, I'd hear him again. And then one day he said, he goes, you know why I would go to jail and I left my Bible in jail, and when I got out, I already knew that I was going to come back because I left that Bible there. He said if I didn't take it with me, then I was going to come back for sure, you know, and it was true.
He told you that?
He told me that. He said,
you knew it? You kind of knew it too.
I kind of felt it like, you know what? He's talking to me because I'm the one that left my Bible there. Because I had this Bible and I was always with it. You know what I mean? Every time he would come to church, I would take it with me and I was in it. You know what I mean? And then one day he was like, you know what? He goes, when I was get locked up, I would always leave. I mean, even one time he told me, he said, I threw it in the trash on the way out the door. And sure enough, I came back. And I came back and got locked up. And that time I don't remember how many years they gave him, but he has a large testimony too. And he said they gave him so many years. So anyway, I started to look at that, and then, again, I get out, and this time, I was so drunk that I didn't want to go to jail, and I got into a fight with Fidel Marua. He's a real good friend of mine. We grew up together, but he's a cop now. And I was telling him, I was like, Fidel, come on, man, you gonna let me go? I ain't trying to go to jail tonight. He's like, man, I gotta take you in, man. It's not like I'm here by myself. I done called you in, and you got warrant, and my partner here. We're here. I said, I'm not going, man. He says, you're gonna go and just calm down. And they came toward him, man, and we got it on right over by the, that party house. The party house, the little
probably knows.
Holiday House?
Yeah, the Holiday House.
Oh yeah.
On this side of the bridge, there was some little. There's a church right there. Well, I lived in them little ghetto little apartments right there. I used to live there.
Right.
And the cops, when they came, I was there, and I took off toward the river. And when they found me, I was there, and we got it on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I got maced, and I got hit, and all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? And at that time, I was to my lowest point. They got locked up. Right. They sent me to Comanche. And I was over there, and I heard another sermon over there, and I liked it. And I started hearing. I was there for 6 months, and I was hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. I caught my first felony. It was an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer. Is what they gave me for that little fight. Yeah, So I got that. They gave me 5 years probation. I never been on probation first time. So, okay, so I'll get out. And I started working again, and I was doing better. You know what I mean? I said, man, you know what? If I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink out of Lampasas. I ain't going to drink in the town. So, I'm going to drink. You know what I mean? Right. That's what I had in my head. And so I started working with Paul's Electric in Killeen, and I was coming back and forth with the company truck of one of my uncles that worked there. And I had a little truck, and I had a little travel trailer that I was renting, and I was paying so much rent, and I was living right there across the street from where I caught the charge. Uh-huh. So I was like, dang, and every time somebody come over, I'd tell them about it, and until I was still going out partying and stuff. And one morning I woke up, and I was getting bit by an ant on the face, a little ant. And pants were down, no shirt, door wide open, 3rd Street, got full access to me, not butt naked, but,
Wow.
You know what I mean? And smelling like beer, late for work. And I was like, man, I can't be doing this no more, And I got in the shower, and right then and there, I prayed, and I was like, you know what, Lord, I can't do this no more, man. I said, I'm tired of this. And, I remember going to probation and calling my aunt. It's like, hey, if I don't make it out, so-and-so's over here, and, I got this much money under this shoebox over here. Come and get me out, or, whatever. But I'm going to probation. I don't know what they're going to tell me. They're probably going to lock me up. It was that fear that I was feeling when I was sitting up against the doorknob. That same fear I was feeling then, I was feeling it then, And all it is just like bondage, that's exactly what it is, because I was scared that people was going to come kick my door in, so I was kind of braced up against it, so at least I knew when they were coming. The same thing over here, when I was going to probation, it was like I was just waiting for him to say, well, we're going to have to lock you up, and it was that same fear, so anyways, we ended up going to I ended up not getting locked up that day. So I celebrated. I went to work, and I forgot all about that prayer that I prayed that morning about, I'm tired of this. I'm ready to change. Well, do whatever you will in my life to straighten this out. It doesn't matter what happens. Just do what you will so that I change. And I went to work, got my check. It was a Friday. Got in my truck, came home, got in the shower. I think I even drank a beer in the shower that day, and went out, and I went to Kempner with a friend of mine, and we ended up at Southern Nights in Cove. And on the way home, I got pulled over at DWI in Kittner. And when I got pulled over, I had like a 6-pack. I had bought extra beer because I know I was so much of an alcoholic that I knew that after 12 o'clock in Lampasas, you ain't buying no more beer.
Right.
So on a Friday. So I'm going to have reserves. So whenever I get out this club, I'm going to have me some beer. So I was on my way home from that club, headed back to Lampasas, and I opened me one, you know, and started drinking. And I was speeding through Kittner, and they pulled me over.
Yeah.
You know, and I just snapped it over. I knew I was going to jail already. Had the windows up and just killing it, man. A 24 ounce, you know, just putting it. And they look at, you know, they wanted my ID, and I just kind of put it through the window there, and it fell. They seen it, you know. And they had me at gunpoint because of my last charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer. They automatically had to. That was their reaction to me, you know. So I went to jail, and I never felt so free in my whole life at that day. You know, when that happened, when I went to jail, I felt so free. I felt like, you know what, I can start over now. You know, this time I'm going to do it right. So this time they offered me 2 to 20 was what they offered me. Or I could take this behavior modification course in West Texas. You go for 6 months, you come out to a rehab for another 3 months, and then another 3 months of aftercare. And I was willing to take that. So I took it. So they sent me to West Texas. It was a place called Breckenridge. And it was a behavior modification place. It was ran by TDC, black boots, white suit, everybody. You know, you walk behind your hands behind your back. You know, when you address an officer, you call him boss. You know, you got a question, you know, you better come correct, or you're gonna something. You know, somebody's gonna tell you something. You know what I mean? As far as the guards. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that place was a place where you were held accountable for your actions. Like, if I didn't make my bed today, they would write a list. Adrian didn't write his bed, and they would put it in a box. And that box was over there all day freely for any kind of slips that anybody would write. If you didn't fold up your clothes, if you were drinking coffee in the day room when you weren't supposed to, if you were sleeping in class, because that was all classes from the very beginning in the morning. You woke up, you were doing GIs, what they call, where you're scrubbing, cleaning, mopping. Then you go to breakfast, and when you come back, you get ready for school. And you're going to get it. If you ain't got your GED, you're going to go get it, you know. Right. So after that, you go to lunch, come home, you have like a 45-minute break. And that's when most people would try to sleep because they woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? That's your time to sleep. So 45 minutes, you get to sleep. Then after that, you go into a parenting class for an hour or maybe 45 minutes. Then you get a 10-minute little coffee break, use the restroom. Then you go into an NA meeting. Then and then you go into life skills. And all day long, you're either in school or doing classes, you know. Right. And the only time you got to kind of rest was like on the weekend. Like on the weekend, because most weekends is like when people come to visit you, your family come to see you on the weekend, you know. So they don't really have too many classes, only late in the evening, you know. But anyways, while I was there, I was being really receptive, you know. I was really, because like I said, I felt more free than I've ever felt in my life, you know what I mean? Even though I was locked up, I felt like, man, you know, I feel like something's happening, you know, to me inside. And one day they called for church, man, and I went, you know, and right then and there they were praising and, you know, just like we do, right. You know, and it was something that I had never seen before, because when I would go to church when I was in these county jails, it was just someone coming to talk to us, you know what I mean? It wasn't really a service. It was just someone coming to, to talk to us. Right. So while we were in church, they played the Open the Eyes to My Heart, you know, and I fell in love with that song, man, and I took it to heart, and I started, you know, my mom I was writing back and forth with my mom and one of my good friends, and she was like, I can see that you're changing in your letters, you know what I mean? I can tell your attitude's different, you know, and my mom, she would tell me, that, because I had already asked for forgiveness. I had already asked for all these things, for everything that I've done, just so that I could start over, So at that point in time, the pastor that was there, he asked, is there anybody that want to get saved? Or he said, has everybody been baptized here? Because there were like 50 people. And would anybody like to get baptized? And I raised my hand, I want to get baptized, and, so he said, well, why don't you sign up, and not this week, but the following week, we're going to baptize you guys. So that following week came, and something happened to them, and they couldn't make it. You know what I mean? Something happened. I mean, I don't know what it was, but they didn't make it. And, there was a couple of us upset. And I remember this one guy was like, man, I ain't going to do it. I was going to do it, but I ain't going to do it. And he just gave up just like that, but I kept it in my heart that I was going to do it. Right. So that following week they came and they said, we're sorry that, something happened. And just like I know now, the devil was at work. Right. And they said that, you know what I mean? And so we went about it, and we accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. And then, he asked some questions, and then we were baptized. He baptized, and we all got in a line, and it was cold that day. I remember it had snowed the day before. Wow. And the bosses wouldn't allow us to bring water in the building.
Oh.
Yeah. So they put water. It was a courtyard, like a basketball court, for because see, they have two facilities. They got one here, one there, and one there, and then over here is like the people that got in trouble from doing all this. They put them over here. And that's their little day room. It was probably no bigger than this room. That's their little day room where they could, like, if they, they're allowed 1 hour of sun a day, and they were allowed to come outside for 1 hour every day. So that's where we got baptized at, where their little courtyard. But the bosses wouldn't allow them to bring their water trough in. And I mean, it was a brand new one. It wasn't like one rusted up outside, you know what I mean? But it was a brand new one, and they weren't going to let them bring it in and fill it up with water so we could be baptized in it. Yeah. So they had to do it outside, and it was cold, man. And they made us strip down to our boxers, and we were all waiting in line. And the pastor's wife, she was there with fresh towels for us when we came out. When we got up. Yeah. And so he did us all one at a time, and I remember, that day clearly, and that's when my walk began, Well, I believe that it started a little bit before that, but I started to understand. I was taking baby steps and learning a little bit, you know what I mean? And I just never missed a church, and they called Bible studies, and I would go to Bible studies, and this is all, you didn't have to go to this stuff, it was a privilege, So, like, if you got in trouble, you weren't allowed to leave. You weren't allowed to go to, out to rec or out to Bible studies, or, they had a couple of different classes that you could take. So, anyways, while we were there, some people come to talk to us. Some Christian people come to talk to us. Some people that had been locked up for a couple, years and stuff, and had. They had changed, and this one lady, I remember this one lady, she was kind of heavy set. She had gold teeth, and she kind of talked like a man, like real macho, you know what I mean? And she had tattoos on her face, and, everybody there had their own story, and she gave her story. And then she came up to me, I mean, not up to me, but I was in this section of the crowd, and she was like directly talking to me. And she's like, you know why you're here? And the guy next to me said, because the judge sent me here, and she said, no, fool, because your mama and your grandma and your girlfriend and your dad, they was all praying for you to change. Amen. And I remember that, but it was funny because that guy said, yeah, the judge sent me here, and and the way she said it, but anyway, it was hilarious.
Remember that sermon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The judge.
Yeah. He's judge. Yeah, that's right. So, anyways, a couple of groups came out. These people were from Dallas. So now I'm waiting on my release date. because I don't know where I'm going. You know, it's either going to be El Paso, Corpus, Fort Worth, Dallas, Temple, San Antonio, Austin. It's going to be one of these big cities around here, a bigger city. You know what I mean? Somewhere they have what do you call a rehab kind of place.
Right.
So I was like, well, wow, I don't know where they're going to send me. And the lady said, not necessarily. We're going to send you back to your home, close to your home. We can send you anywhere we want. And she was real rude about it, you know. And I said, well, you know, in my letters to my mom, I was like, you know, Mom, I've adapted because I was a military brat, you know, with my stepdad. Because after we left California, we went to Arizona and we went to Europe. We went to a lot of places. So I was ready for an environment change all the time. I would quickly adapt to any situation, you know what I mean, a lot quicker than anybody else. I mean, any other person, you know. So, like I told my mom in the letters, and I said, you know, Mom, it don't matter where I go, you know. I know how to work, you know. I can find a job. You know, God's going to provide no matter what, wherever I'm at. So I left it at that with no worries, and my time went like that. And you know, a lot of people, I heard them complaining and what, I'm from San Antonio and they're going to send me to El Paso. I'm from San Antonio and they're going to send me to Corpus. You know, how come they're not sending me to my home? And you know, I heard a lot of complaining, a lot of murmuring, a lot of stuff in there, and I was starting to see things more clearly, you know, than what I would have seen before. And so anyways, I got my papers and they said that I was going to go to Temple. So I said, okay, well, wow, you know, that's not too far from Lampasas. I mean, that's where my mom's not there, my dad's not there, but most of my family lives right here in Lampasas. Right. So I said, well, you know, my aunt that's been riding me and came to visit me, you know, I'm sure she'll come see me, you know. So we go to Temple and we get out. Now, I don't know where to go to church at, you know, because that was my source of, that's where I recharged, you know what I mean? That's what I needed was church. And I didn't know what church I was going to go to because I was kind of frightened. And when they said it was time for me to leave, like, there was people like, man, I can't wait. I'm, you know, all this and that. And me, I was kind of scared to leave because I knew that out there I had a lot of options. I could go either way, you know. And I felt protected while I was locked up. You know, being locked up wasn't a bad thing for me. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't that bad. I mean, a lot of people says, oh, you know, I've been in jail and it's terrible and all this and that. Man, it was great for me because, I mean, that's where I heard the word. That's where I got closer to God. That's where all these things happened to me in my life that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life, you know. And so anyways, they let me out. We go to Temple. I'm in a halfway house there. And the first time I walked in that halfway house and signed my name, and, you know, they told me all the rules. And they said, there's the lunchroom. You can go get something to eat. And in about 2 hours, you're going to have a class. And it's the same thing. You have classes here. You're going to have classes there, too, all day long, unless you find a job. And they allow you chances to, you have to, like, let's say I'm going to go to Cracker Barrel and apply for a job. Okay, well, I had to write the address to Cracker Barrel, the phone number, job searching, and then I had to have it signed by my counselor. Right. So if I want to go to Cracker Barrel today, it's not going to happen. It's going to happen tomorrow because you have to have your counselor sign it first. Right. So everything was by your counselor. So anyways, when I went in there and ate lunch, I seen this old man. He looked like my grandpa. You know, gray hairs, tattoos, just slick hair back, no teeth. And I was like, wow. But my grandpa passed away, you know. He passed away a while back. But he looked just like him. And I was like, dang, you know. And I sat down with him and he asked me where I was from. And I told him I was from here. And he asked if I knew certain people. I said, yeah, that's my cousin. He's like, really? He says, man, he's my cellie. We did time together. We did like 8 years together. I was like, really? And he was one of my cousins, you know. And I said, wow. So me and this old man, he's like 67 years old. We got along great, you know. And one day he invited me to church. So I said, yeah, I'll go with you, yeah. So I went to church with him at Victory Ministries in Temple. Victory Ministries. And that was the first church that I went to when I got out. You know, because I was still kind of confused because, like I said, my family here, they're all Catholics, supposedly. I mean, one of my uncles goes to church. None of his kids go. My other uncle goes to church, but he was at the Ruben Ramos band last night, you know. I mean, I don't understand, you know, that's what I wasn't getting out of the Catholic Church. I would go to church and routine, kneel down and, you know, sign the cross, and then an hour later I was smoking weed down the street, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I told, you know, this guy that I met, that old man, his name was Alfonso. He was from El Paso, and he was an ex-heroin addict that had been through so many treatments and been locked up. And he says, if I get in trouble again, I'm going to die in prison. He was 67 years old, you know. He says, I think if I shoot up again, I'll probably die. But I want it. I want to be. I miss that feeling, you know.
Right.
And he struggled with that every day, you know.
Right.
He wasn't like, because like most heroin addicts, they don't get high, they get better, you know what I mean? They're not out looking for a high, they're looking for a cure because they're sick, you know. They're, how do you call that, like, I don't know the word, they're
Their bones.
like they're kicking it, you know what I mean? Like they're kicking the habit.
Right.
In other words, and they're going through pain, you know.
Right.
So, anyways, this guy, he takes me to church, and I go with him, and I met the pastor there. His name's Pastor Bob, and what it is, it's a house like this, and over here's a church, and the pastor kind of made this into like a little lobby, and then over here's like the church, the worship where everybody comes to have church, and then over there in the back, there are rooms, and what he does is he gets people off the streets. You know, homeless, prostitutes, drug addicts, people that want to change, people that want a second chance. He gets them off the streets and he starts to disciple them. Right. And then he puts them back out on the street, spreading the word, you know. And it's through a thing of a process, you know, but some make it and some don't, you know. But that was the church. It was a victory outreach type of place. And I started going to church there, and while I was locked up, I always wanted, you know, I started praying for a wife. You know, I was like, you know, I want to settle down. I want to have a family. You know what I mean? I want all those beautiful things that I had, but took advantage of them. You know what I mean? I want all those things back. So, you know, and I left it like that. And I had already given up on that prayer. I was like, you know, well, God's going to give it to me. He's going to give it to me whenever He wants. Right. You know. So we left it like that, and I continued to go to church, and like I said, I was confused because I would come down here, and my family would invite me to church, and I went one time to this Catholic church down here after I'd already been saved and baptized and everything, and I already was going to this other church, and came over here, and I was like, wait, hold up. I mean, they talk about not worshiping idols, and we're over here. I was confused. I mean, I didn't know what to do, you know, and I was like, I can't do this, you know, and that was the last time I went to that church, you know, and I talked to my pastor about it, and he was like, Manito, because Manito's little brother, he was calling him Manito, and he says, Manito, you need to stay away from that church. He says, you need to stay away from, you need to just find you. He goes, what are you doing over there? Stay here. If you need a place to go, just to hang out, come hang out with the homeboys. Just come over here, because that's what they call them, the homeboys. Yeah. And he said, just come over here. Just come fellowship with us. And it was a really awesome church. I mean, it's a small church. There's like 14 members on a Sunday. Wow. You know, it's little. It's little. And the Bible studies are amazing. I mean, He calls on you, you know what I mean? It's not like here, you're just sitting there listening to the word, or are you listening, or you ain't listening, or you're not taking notes or anything. Yeah. You know, he'll call on you, brother. Tell me what you got written down right there, or read me this, and he'll, you know, you stand up and read, and what did you get out of that, and tell me what do you think about that, you know what I mean? And I was really getting into it, you know what I mean? It was strong, and you know, on Sundays it was good, you know, and there's a person praying 24 hours in that church. I mean, 24 hours of a day. There's someone on their knees all day long there. It might not be the same person, but there's, after he gets up, another one gets down, you know, all day long. And that place, it was it's a branch off of another church called Outcry in the Barrio. It's a church out of San Antonio. They I ain't got my notebook with me, but it's actually just it's a guy that was an ex-heroin addict. His wife was kind of like a prostitute or something. It wasn't his wife at first, but they somehow got together, and somebody brought him the word, and he was transformed into the man that he is today. And this guy, his name is Freddie Garcia. He had a little bitty house, and he brought one of his friends off the street, and then another one came, and before you knew it, he told his wife, hey, we don't have no more room. We need to build some more rooms.
Amen.
So he started building a room, and before you knew it, they had the big house, and it was filled up too. And he was bringing people off the street and bringing them out, and then finally, the end of the book, the guy passes away or whatever, but he ended up, God told him, he says, look, I want you to go by this church. He gave him the address. I don't remember the name, but the street was Buena Vista was the name of the street, and this book took place in San Antonio. So he gives him the address, and he goes to look at the church, and the church is huge. And he's like, and it's just an abandoned building. It wasn't really a church, it was just an abandoned building. He says, God told me he wants me to make a church here. And he says, he goes and tells his wife, and his wife was like, Freddie, we don't have that kind of money, Freddie. And he says, I don't care. God said that he's going to make that's going to be the church.
Right.
And so they just kept on believing. And in the book, a couple of days later, he receives a check for some odd $1,000 to buy the church. So he buys it, and he starts, and he says, well, who's going to pastor it? And he says, well, God said, I'm going to, God comes to him. He says that God comes to him and tells him, you're going to pastor it, Freddie. Me? I'm just an ex-drug addict, Right. He's like, you're going to pastor it, Freddie. And you're going to disciple men and all this and that, you know what I mean? So he does it, and toward the end of the book, he starts saying, after all this and that, this guy, he's from El Paso. Okay, I want you to here's some money. I want you to go find a church in El Paso, and you open up another church over there. Go find a place. And this guy over here, go do the same thing. And this guy over here, go do the same thing. Well, Pastor Bob did the same thing. They were actually friends. This guy Freddie and Pastor Bob, right. They were actually
so they knew each other.
Yeah, they knew each other. And this church over here, it was actually an ex-crack house. He has pictures of it. When he first got there, it was all abandoned and tape on it, and now it's a nice church. You know what I mean? A small church, but it's nice. It's nicer than what it was. But so anyways, I said to myself, I said, one of these days I'm going to go to that church. In San Antonio. So like I said. I had already met Amy, and we had already got married, and we were living in Troy, and we were kind of struggling because Eric and I and Amy weren't used to living together. You know what I mean? Because Eric's not my real son; he's my stepson. Mm-hmm. But Amy, she was kind of scared, just like me. I was scared. I couldn't provide for them all. For all of us, I was struggling by myself. But at the time, she wasn't working, so we decided that, we're gonna be okay. God's gonna provide. We're gonna be all right. No matter where we go, we're gonna be fine. And so, anyways, we lived in Troy, and then. Where I was working at, some of the guys I was working with, they were bringing drugs on the job, and they was starting to come back, and
how did you deal with that?
It was getting to the point where what had happened, I was fine as far as staying away from the drugs. I was fine. I didn't smoke cigarettes no more. I didn't drink no more. I didn't do none of the things that I did, but I was around people that did. Like they were smoking cigarettes, and on Fridays they would drink beer, right before we got our check, and they would offer and everything, and I'm like, I'm good, man. I done did my time. I know what's up, So, and I would tell them too, and I would try to talk to them. They would
know what that leads to.
Yeah. So anyways, there was one point in time when I had smoked a cigarette. And I opened that door, man. And I had smoked a cigarette, and I was real close to drinking a beer, because I was like, I don't know, I got a raise or something. Yeah, I got a raise, and I drank a beer, and Amy went home to her parents, and my cousin rented a motel in Cove, and I went to there, and I drank a couple of beers, you know, and the next day, Amy, we got together, and she looked at me and she said, "Have you been drinking?" And I was like, I said, "Yeah." "Why?" I said, I was celebrating, I guess. You know, and we had this conversation. I was on the verge of losing her, you know, because of that. And I didn't want that, you know, and right then and there, I said, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to have that, you know. And, you know, we ended up, I started praying for a new job. I said, you know, I don't want to be around these guys, because I've been around them a lot, and I know what they're about, because we were working in Austin and we were all carpooling together. And one day I was in the truck with my boss, and my boss's little brother had left during lunch, and I didn't realize it when he came back. And on the way home, he opens the glove box and had a big old 8-ball, and I was like, you know, I said, man, for one, I'm the only American citizen in this vehicle, you know. For two, if we get pulled over, they're all drinking. And three, I'm on probation. And four, they're all going to jail, and I'm probably going to go too, you know what I mean? So I was like, I'm not going to be doing this, you know. So like I said, I prayed about it, and God answered my prayers, man. And my uncle called me, and he says, "Hey, man, are you working?" I said, "No. I mean, not right now." He says, "Well, you want to work tomorrow?" And it was a Saturday. I said, "Yeah, I'll work with you." So I came down, and I started coming down to work on the weekends here and going back to Troy. And then I ended up going to, he ended up saying, "Man, I really need a lot of help, man. I got a lot of work." So he kept me. I said, "You know what? I think I might just move down here if you got a lot of work." So to get Amy closer to her mom in Marble Falls, and to get me away from there. So I looked at it like, you know what? I think maybe God provided this so that I could come, you know, and get closer. Because as soon as we got here, Sonia invited us to church that day. She's like, "Hey, y'all should come to church with us on Sunday." So we went, because Sonia and Amy are best friends. Oh, yeah, they're best friends from school. And right off the bat, we started going there. In August was a year, last August. So, like I said, I came here and I started working with my uncle, and I got, you know, I like that church. We've been, yeah. And when we moved here, I was like, I didn't have the phone number to that church. I didn't have no way. I didn't know how to get a hold of them. I had Googled it, but it wasn't the same phone number. That, you know, it was somewhere else. Until one day, went to Citywide Garage Sale and found the book, Outcrying the Body. And I opened it up, and it said Temple, Texas. And I said, "Ma'am, how much you want for this book?" She's like, "I'll take 50 cents. I said, "All right." And I was fitting to give her. I gave her the book, and I was getting the money. And right on the book, it said, "Not for resale." And she says, "No, you can have it. It's free." So I took it, and I had the address, and I read the book. It was the first time I had read the book. I hadn't written the book yet. So what I had just told you was the information that I got from reading it after I got at the garage sale, right? Yeah. So I said, "Well, I'm going to go to this church," you know. So I got the address, and we Googled it, and we put it in the GPS and went all the way to San Antonio, and went to that address, Buena Vista. And I said, "There's no church here, man. There's just a big old apartment complex." Huge. I was like, man, my heart just dropped. I was like, what? And then I seen this guy come out. He was a black guy. He come out, but he had like a El Salvadoran accent. And he was wearing like a red shirt. And he comes out and he says, "Can I help you?" I says, "Yeah, I'm looking for Outcry in the Barrio. This is it." I was like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, this is it. All this." And it was huge apartment complex. So it started from that one bedroom house to this whole apartment complex. And one side was men and the other side was women. And then all of a sudden we see these two trucks pull up, and there's maybe 10 or 15 guys in back of each truck, and they get off and they huddle up and they thank God for making it home.
Wow.
from church.
Awesome.
So he says, yeah, this is the home. You're looking for the church, and he gave me the address and we went to church, and it's awesome. I love the church. It's like, I've never been to a concert, but I imagine that's what a concert would be. Like loud and just like when you go in, it's like when you go to the movie theater and the ground's kind of slanted toward the front. That's what it's like, and all the seats. You just don't go sit where you want. They're guiding you, and they're like, like directing traffic, because apparently this whole place is going to get filled up. And that's what happened. And they said, oh, well, because we had Eric with us. He says he needs to go downstairs to the nursery. So we go downstairs to the basement, and they had a nursery for them down there. And we signed them in, and they give you a number on your shirt, and he gets a number, and afterwards you come pick him up, but you have to have that number, Right. So anyways, we go back upstairs, and when we go back up there, the lights had come off, and they had strobe lights and black lights, and it was just awesome, man.
Yeah.
And then, the music, and you just hear people talking in tongues from every direction, and just, oh man, it's awesome. It's called Metanoia is the name of the church, but Outcry in the Body was the name of the book. Right. But I thought that was the name of the church. But it's the name of the church is called Metanoia, and what it is the pastor that was in that book. He talks about, because he has kids, and he has a bunch of kids, and he goes through a lot of stuff, through this book. And he had one son that he named him Jubal. And he says he prayed in the name of Jesus that his son Jubal was going to do the same as he, the same thing that he does for you, the same thing that I do for you, Lord. I want my son to do, So we go and everything, and at the end of the service, this guy introduces himself as Jubal Garcia, the pastor's son.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. We've been like 3 times.
So let me ask you a question. What do you think would happen if there was nobody going to the jails, no churches or something? I mean, the church going to the jail is like...
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. And I've really been thinking about...
I think it's really cool about how you left the Bible there.
Yeah. Because that's true. A lot of people...
He wanted you to go back and get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's cool.
exactly, because like I said...
You knew it right here.
Yeah, I knew it. Like this one's dated from 11/10/9. That's when I received this Bible. So, because I got locked up in 2010, I got out in 2011. So, by March...
That's the same exact Bible.
Yeah.
You're not just a Bible.
No.
Man.
This is the Bible. Yeah. Yeah, because I
That's
got...
a good testimony right there.
Because I have... I had written down some stuff that he had told me that I thought was real good. I remember one of them was, okay, it's not what you can do for God, it's what you let God do for you, is what he said. And I kind of was like, I clicked onto that, and I was like, you know what, that's right, because we got to just let God be God. We can't try to control anything. It's we got to let him do what he's going to do. I mean, regardless if we try to let him do it or not, he's going to do it. But some of us kind of think that we're in control, sometimes, and we don't ask for him just to take over.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. When you were in that halfway house, if that's what you call it, and you were going to the churches and all that stuff, you said, I'm out, I don't know where to go. They didn't tell you? I mean, they didn't say you can go here? It looks like they had kind of a...
They had these people that were that were running the place. Like, they had some people that were like the boss, the manager, and all that. But then they had like some people that... There was one lady that she was really trying to help. You know what I mean? She wasn't my counselor, but I recognized her because she was my counselor at the rehab that I was at before all this even happened. Mm-hmm. Like... The name of that rehab was called Christian Farms. It was over in Killeen, Belton, somewhere over there. And she was my counselor there. Her name was Jan. And I recognized her because I was walking, and there's only like 4 or 5 counselors, and I remember her. But I never really said nothing to her. But like I said, when I got out, I really didn't know what church to go to. I didn't know Temple. I didn't know anybody that lived in Temple. And I knew that in 3 months I had to have enough money saved up in 3 months because I was going to have to live in Temple, because for one, I didn't have a vehicle, and after 3 months you're released, you got to go to 3 months aftercare. That means once a week you got to come back to this facility, and you have to have a class once a week, every week for 3 months. So I realized that, you know what, I have to find a job, and when I do find a job, it's got to be here in this city. It's got to be here in this town, and I got to stick with it, because I got to find a place to live, So, I continued. Like I said, I found that man. I ran into that old man, and that's what I'm saying.
That was God
right just put him in place.
Right there,
right off the bat, because I was on my way home. Like I said, I didn't want to leave the jail, because I was like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? I felt protected, there, because I had my church there. I had, I didn't have that many options. I was scared that maybe I was going to take a wrong turn again, Yeah. And so anyways, we were on our way home, and as soon as I signed in and everything, got registered and all that or whatever, they said, go, there's the auditorium or whatever, go get something to eat, get in line. And I did, and I met that old man, and there was the church problem out of the way.
Bless God.
Yeah, so it was just awesome. I had gave my testimony before over in Church of the Hills, and that's in Lomita. Have you been to that church?
Yeah.
That's funny. We went to a church function. One of our friends goes there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was pretty nice. We run late to our church, so we was going to run late to 15 minutes away. Mm-hmm. So that's the only reason we decided to come here, because I really did like that church, and I had some friends. They're actually the uncle and aunt of my children. They were actually, while all that stuff was going around, because she's a cop, and he kind of gave me a little bit of work. He does paint and body, and I was working for him at one time, and there was times when he was trying to kind of talk to me, and he was like, hey man, you can't be doing what you're doing, man. I know what you're doing, and Misty knows what you're doing, and her and these cops, they talk, man, and they're gonna come kick your door down one day, and they did. I had my door kicked in at least every 3 months, at least once, but never found nothing, because, like I said, I believed in that lady so much that one time she told me, she says, hey, put everything away, and I did. I listened to her, and I did, and sure enough, like 2 or 3 days later, my door got kicked in. And they came in and didn't find nothing. They found a little bit of drug paraphernalia, like papers and a pipe, but as far as the dope,
Something
they never
serious,
found it.
yeah.
But I put my faith in her. You know what I mean? And come to realize that, I was worshiping another idol. Like I was worshiping. They made it seem like she was doing this for God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They made it look perfect. They made it look like it was right, but no, it was wrong. And my ex, they used to go to Mexico and go do, I don't know what they went. I never went with them over there, but they would go over there, and my ex would tell me that that she has that same spirit can get into her. And supposedly she changes and her hands grow, and I don't know if she was saying that to scare me or what, but I didn't believe it that much. I wasn't that much of a believer of it, but I did believe that if I asked her for help, hey, can you keep me on the cool? Let me know if they're coming. That's all I cared about. I just wanted to know for my own protection if they were coming or not. And supposedly she helped me. But
did she like change or something when she talked, or was she just
no?
Was she just normal?
She was just normal, but I tried to, because I was curious, and I was like, I would go up to her, and I called her Wella. Wella means grandma, mm-hmm. And I would say, Wella, there's some people here to see you, and she would just kind of look at me and smile like she didn't know me. She knew who I was, and I kind of was like, so Julie, hey man, your grandma's. I went and told her them people were here, and she kind of looked at me all crazy. And she's like, it's because she's in the spirit. She doesn't know. You don't know the spirit, so she's not going to recognize you. I was like, oh. Okay. But it was a scary thing, and a lot of things went down. Like I said, when the house burned down, it was horrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A couple of times, people come. One time, this guy came knocking on my door. What had happened? He was riding a motorcycle earlier that day, and my ex's little brother and sister were out playing in our land, you know, and this guy come zooming across the yard. It was like a dirt road. He comes zooming across on his dirt bike, and the kids were out there, you know what I mean? And he was coming fast. I mean, had they got scared and started off to one way, he probably would have ran over them. That's how close he was, you know? And I didn't know who it was, but my ex's little sister told me, he's like, yeah, that's the guy right there. We were at the store at the gas station, and I was like, man, that's one of my, you know, he's a loyal customer. What is he doing, you know? So when he came that night, I got on him, you know? And I told him, I said, hey, man, you came over earlier? No. I said, no, you passed by, or you on a motorcycle? Oh, yeah. I said, why you coming through here all fast, man, like that? You know, you could have hurt somebody, one of these kids. Nah, I just came by to see if you were here, man. And as soon as I said that, his eyes got like that big, and he just like started crying in front of me and was backing up and left. Wow. And I was like, what the, you know, what was chirping? I went inside, and I do a lot of drawing, and when I was on med, I would do a bunch of drawing and stuff, and of, you know, naked women and just all kinds of just evil stuff, just like just, I mean, I'm sure those books burned in that house, you know, but all that stuff, it was all, that's what I did, you know, that's what I would do. I would get all geeked out and smoke meth or snort meth, and while I was waiting for things to happen, I was drawing, you know. Right. And so anyways, a couple weeks went by, and I got over it, you know, the guy. And when he came over again, I asked him, you know, hey, man, what was up with you that day? You know, I didn't mean any harm by it. I just don't want you to come by here doing that, because you're going to hurt somebody, you know what I mean? And then I'm going to have to catch, you know, it's just a whole lot of drama, man. I'm going to have to go to jail because you know, doing something stupid, and I don't want to hurt nobody, you know, because I always had this heart that I have. It was like I had a good side, but I could have a bad side too. You know what I mean? It was like two people. It was like two things in one with me, you know? And I really did. There was a point in time when I started to realize that my heart was changing, you know? But there was a time when, like, because I felt like I was under someone else's control, like with my ex. I felt like if she told me to do something, I did it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I loved her and I wanted her that much that I would do anything for her. You know what I mean? And I felt that way, like possessed, kind of like, if I tell you to do something, you're going to do it. You know what I mean? But not in that tone, not like she said that, like she's got me in check or something, but like she could make me do something if she wanted to, you know? And that's how I felt like I was out of control.
So what are you doing now? I mean, I noticed you're going to, do you knock on doors or something?
No. What do you mean as far as...
what's God doing with you now?
Right now, I believe that, you know, just from... like I said the other day, I just got up out of school. I was at school and started getting obnoxious there. Obnoxious. And I just got up and got in my car and started driving up toward my aunt's, and ended up seeing that she wasn't home. And I kept driving a little bit, and I seen my friend Joe's house, and I stopped there, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and I don't really know why I stopped, but I stopped. You know what I mean? It didn't even look like no one lives there. Right. You know, I pulled up in his garage. His pool table's knocked over. There was a TV knocked over that way, and screen door was ripped off. And I just knocked on the door, and he was there, and I just started talking to him, you know, and I pray that, you know, that God uses me to talk to people that are going through what I went through, you know. And at one point in time, I had went back to CPS, you know, and I talked to this lady. Well, the way it happened was Amy, where she works at Security Finance. She works at Security Finance. Well, this lady comes in there, and she's like, I'm so sorry I haven't been able to come in here. I've been going here and there, back and forth with the kids and all this and that. And this lady's kind of up there, you know what I mean? And Amy's like, kids, you know, you look a little old to have little kids. You know what I mean? So she goes, no, I work for CPS. So Amy started talking to her, and she's like, oh, really? She goes, oh, my husband dealt with CPS. She goes, oh, really? What's his name? I might know him. And she tells him the name, and she's like, no, I don't think I know him. And then, well, what's his kid's name? And she told him, you know, Giovanni and Xiomara and Anissa. And I know those kids. Them kids were here last month, you know, because they were in foster homes. And then...
So where's this at now?
Well, now, like I said, now they've been adopted. That's why they came to Lampasas, because she had they had to sign some papers. The foster parents that adopted them, or the parents that adopted them, they had to come to Lampasas to sign the papers, because this is the county they left out of, or whatever. Some kind of papers they had to sign. You know, right there at Pizza Hut. I live like right 2 blocks from Pizza Hut, down the street that way. You know, and but you know, all in all, throughout the whole time, before I was saved and baptized, before all this happened, I had always, you know, knew that there was a God, and I always knew that He was you know, that I could call on Him for anything. You know, even though I was doing my own badness, I knew that there was a real God. You know what I mean? And I did pray to Him, you know, and I prayed that my kids are in the best of hands, you know, that He provides for them and protects them. And like I said, when that lady came over there and talked to Amy and told Amy that the kids were here, and she says, you tell Adrian to come see me, you know. Her name is Beverly Wilson. So I came over there and I talked to her, and she goes, you know, I always knew in your heart, I always could tell that you were the one that was going to change. I could always see it in you, you know, from the very beginning when I first, because you were the only one that cooperated. You're the only one that went to the rehab. You're the one, you know, I knew that you were going to be able to, I thought you were going to do it, but, you know, so, she pretty much was saying, you know, hey, you know, the kid's been adopted. They're with a Christian family. You know, they're all together. They all live.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
And right there and there, you know, a big relief. You know, I knew I put it in God's hands, you know, and I knew that right then and there, that He had answered my prayers, because that's all I wanted, you know.
Amen. Well,
yeah.
Let's pray. Thank you for your testimony, man. That's awesome. Lord, we just thank you, Father God, for the mighty work you did in Adrian's life. Lord, I thank you that through all that trouble and all that pain, that you were in the fire with him, that you went through all that tribulation with him, Lord. And I thank you that you've called him out of the darkness, that you've called him out of all that despair and just falsehoods and everything, Lord. I thank you that you've made him a man of God that he is today, Lord. And I thank you that that's a special blessing, Lord, that you answered his prayer, the secret desires of his heart about his children, Lord. I thank you that they're with a Christian family and they're together, Lord. Lord, I thank you that you anoint him to follow your Spirit, Lord. I thank you that he walks after the Spirit, and if you say go, he'll go. I thank you, Lord, that his feet are truly shod with the preparation of the gospel. Lord, I thank you that he has a heart for the lost. I thank you that he has a testimony that can take people that were just like him from just where he was to where he is now. I thank you, Lord, that he can truly say, this is how bad it was, and then this is how good Christ is. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Yeah, thank you for Amy, too. She's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that was awesome. It was really long, but all those stories, I mean, the supernatural, prison, selling drugs, being addicted to drugs, coming out of drugs, and the kids and everything. I just wanted you to hear all of that, because God turns things around. Seeking Jesus, he lights up the way, and he's a lamp unto our feet, and he's real, and he can transform lives. We just need to yield to him as being Lord and Savior. If this has touched you, please share this with your friends and family on social media. Until we meet again, dig deeper and go higher.
Dig deeper, go higher at ConradRocks.net.